Love it, I love it, and live it up, don't let nobody bring.
Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be discussing glute imbalances. Now, this is very common for many individuals. As human beings, we are asymmetrical. It's very common for us to have asymmetry in our hips and our pelvis, and this is going to affect how we walk and perform our daily activities. So first things first, how do you as an individual know if you have a glute imbalance? Well, the first thing you need to do is ask yourself, when you squat, are you able to feel both glutes firing? When you do activities and you do exercises that work your glutes, do you sometimes feel like one glute may be firing more than the other? If you're doing a glute exercise and it doesn't feel right, it just feels a little bit off, or you don't exactly feel the exercise in your glutes, maybe you feel it more in your hamstrings or your quads, this can lead to you having a glute imbalance. The second thing that you can do is palpate. And this might sound weird, but I promise you that it works. Do an exercise and just place your hand on both your upper and lower glutes, as they do fire a little bit differently, and see if you feel your glutes firing. All right, the other thing is that you might have a lot of strength in your legs, and you might be doing specific leg and glute exercises properly, but you're not firing your glutes. What you can do are single leg exercises, single leg deadlifts, single leg skater squats, and just see from one side to the other if they look symmetrical. If your knees are caving in, then that is a sign of weak glutes. You can do single leg exercises on both legs, but try to do more repetitions on your weaker side. So if you're doing single leg deadlifts on your right side and your left side, and your left side is where you have that weaker glute imbalance, then try to do more on the left side versus the right side. So not only do you want to do unilateral movements, but you also want to do bilateral movements as well. So do some squats, do some deadlifts, and see how your body responds. If you tend to shift your hips, for an example, in a squat, more towards your right side, that is kind of showing you that your right side is a lot stronger. This is not always the case, but it is something to be aware of. It could be due to ankle mobility or hip mobility, but if you tend to shift more to one side, then that is usually the stronger glute or stronger side in your body. These exercises are functional movement patterns that need to be done properly. Every time you do a squat with improper form, it's almost like you're taking a step back. Since you're trying to reintroduce a new motor program, you want to ensure that your form is correct, because this is how you're going to be doing it from now on. If you only need to do half squats to really get your form down pat, then do half squats, or grab a bench and practice squatting on the bench to ensure your form is proper. You don't want to go too heavy, not only because it's a possibility of having your form suffer, but a lot of the times if you go too heavy, your weaker muscles are going to take over to just try to get the job done. All right, so let's get into why we might have a glute imbalance. The first thing to realize is we are asymmetrical human beings. We tend to, when we're standing for long periods of time, shift to one side of our body and place all of our weight onto one side or one hip. If you are right-handed, we typically do a lot more with the right side of our body. If you are, for example, playing soccer and you're right-handed, you're most likely going to be kicking with the right side of your body, your right foot. This means that your left side is going to be more stable than the right side. Second, it could be due to inactivity. A lot of us have office jobs, or we sit all day, or maybe you're just a sedentary individual, and this is most likely going to lead to tight and hip flexors. Tight or shortened hip flexors also lead to weak glutes. When we perform these day-to-day activities, such as getting out of bed in the morning, we use our abdominals to help us do that movement. When we push a door open, our chest muscles become activated and our tricep muscles also become activated. However, our gluteus maximus, our glute muscle, only really becomes highly activated when we do heavy movements such as squats and deadlifts, or explosive movements such as jumping. So if you're not one to do heavier squats or deadlifts or perform these exercises or do these explosive movements, then you're not really exactly using your gluteus maximus to its full effect. So this inactivity of your gluteus maximus could lead to glute imbalances. Another reason can be due to an injury. So realistically, any injury from the hip down, basically your lower body, can lead to us not using our glutes properly or not even using our glutes at all. Now, it's important to realize that when we return from an injury, our glutes don't just magically fire perfectly again. We need to create these motor learning patterns again and reintroduce these movements to our glutes and perform these glute activation drills so that we can slowly reintroduce those movements to get those glutes firing properly. All right, so let's get into how you can fix glute imbalances. The first thing you want to do is isometric contractions. So you're only going to do this for your weaker glute. So you can do this lying down, you can do this on your hands and knees. I'm going to show you a couple of ways you can do it right now. But what you're going to do is you're just going to perform these isometric contractions for the weaker glute. You can do this every single day, and the isometric contractions really only need to be in 3-second increments. We still want movement in that weaker glute to ensure that we're hitting all of the fibers of the glutes. You want to choose simple and effective glute targeting exercises. Simple glute activation exercises to really fire up the glutes so that when you do move on to your heavier compound lifts such as squat and deadlifts, you're going to know what it feels like to be able to fire up those glutes and really have your glutes working. Main focus here is to really get that good contraction, so really focus on squeezing your glutes. These exercises you really only want to do for the weaker glute. Another thing you can do is band work. So I always like using bands as part of my warm-up to really get my glutes firing and activated. You can do side-to-side walks. You can even wrap a band around your legs and do lying abductions, clams. There's lots of ways to use the resistance band as it is not a lot of weight. It's just a very small, light resistance. You can bring this with you to the gym. It is simple and easy to carry, and you can do a lot of glute activation exercises with using the resistance band. Another key point and another thing to keep in mind is that you need to ensure that you're stretching and you're doing self-myofascial release, or you're doing some type of foam rolling. A lot of the times, like I mentioned, when you have tight hip flexors, let's say from sitting all day, this leads to weaker glutes. So you want to ensure that you're stretching out your hip flexors, doing a lot of stretches to really help release any tension in your hip flexors. You can always use a lacrosse ball or even use a foam roll to really loosen up your hip flexors. To realize that if you do have a glute imbalance, it may take up to from anywhere from 4 weeks to 3 to 6 months to really get that glute imbalance issue solved. So it's important to be patient, do these exercises, do these maximal contractions. Do these single leg exercises. Use resistance bands. And then once you have solved this issue and gotten your glutes to fire properly, then you can move on to your heavier compound exercises. Alright guys, so that is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please show your support by giving this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And last but not least, make sure you guys are also following me on my Instagram, where I post tons of workout videos and lots of valuable information, including nutritional tips to get you closer towards your fitness goals.